So, namaste everybody. Om Namo Narayanaya. My name is Rudra Krishnan, and I will be facilitating the discussion with Mr. Vishwanathan today. So, just before we begin, I want to go over some requests. So, please mute your mic so we can all hear and focus on the speaker. Also, we are live on Facebook Live. So, if and when we hit the maximum capacity on Zoom, please join us on Facebook Live. As it is a private group, you will have to send a friend request, but that request will be accepted almost immediately. So if you have any questions for Mr. Vishwanathan, please send me a message in the Zoom chat box or send it through Facebook Live. So without further ado, let's begin. The Guruvayurpan Temple of Brampton is proud to welcome Mr. Ed Vishwanathan to lecture as part of our Spiritual Discourse e-series. Mr. Ed Vishwanathan is a retired electrical engineer and resides in New Orleans, Louisiana, with his wife, and Mr. Vishwanathan has 2 children. We are especially lucky to have Mr. Ed Vishwanathan here with us tonight, as he's the author of 3 international bestsellers about Hinduism, including the book, Am I Hindu?, The Amazing Secrets of the Bhagavad Gita, and Amazing Secrets of Hinduism, Hindu Culture and Incredible India. His book, Am I Hindu?, was written 30 years ago and published to educate his son, who was attending Catholic school at the time, in question and answer format on his Hindu culture and heritage. Am I Hindu? Was on Amazon's 10 bestseller books about Hinduism years ago, and the books received rave reviews from The Hindu, Chennai, Hinduism Today magazine, India West magazine, California, India Tribune magazine, and Chicago. In the United States, the Library Journal and Booklist magazine recommended this book for all private and public libraries. This book is praised by Mr. Walter Isaacson, the ex-chief editor of Time magazine, as well as by Dr. Stephen Prothero, the chairman of Religious Studies, Boston University. This book is used at Boston University and has also been used and translated in different languages. Here to talk a little bit about Hinduism and a bit about the amazing secrets of the Bhagavad Gita, please welcome Mr. Ed Vishwanathan. Mr. Vishwanathan, please begin your presentation.
Hari Om. Namaste. First, let us do a little prayer to Lord Ganesh, also Saraswati, Vedavyasa, Adi Shankara, Paramahamsa Yogananda, Shivananda Saraswati, Ramana Maharshi, and Pujya Swami Chinmayananda. Hari Om. We are all in a state of shock as well as confusion because of the coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic. So it is appropriate that we have a universal prayer first. And we let us pray that prayer right now. Om Ma Satamaya Soma This prayer is a universal prayer. It came from Brihad Aranya Upanishad, which says, lead me from unreal to real, lead me from darkness to light, lead me from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. First, I want to thank Ms. Rudra Krishnan, Mr. Shaji Krishnan, and others for inviting me to present to you my ideas about Hinduism and Bhagavad Gita. Inviting a large number of speakers who has a lot of knowledge in variety of subjects is the best thing you can do to properly understand our culture and spirituality. Each person you invite bring you a different color of the rainbow. And this is a real rainbow idea coalition of ideas that make even the children, everybody understand the different minute parts of our culture. To begin with, all of us are different. Even though come from different family, we see things differently. When I talk to my wife and my children, sometimes I feel we are from different planets because one person says something, another person has a totally different idea about the same thing. So there will be among us who believe Lord Krishna is the true God. Some believe Lord Shiva is the true God, or Goddess Kali is the true Mother God. There are many among us, especially among youngsters, who will proudly say, Uncle, I am an agnostic or even an atheist. The beautiful part of Hinduism is all of us can exist together in Hinduism. Many paths have come to one unity. So my presentation today is strictly to present you a large summation of facts and figures, which I wish you will listen and watch me and investigate further. What I have presented is truth, or as they say nowadays, is fake news. Please understand, nobody knows everything. And we may be nibbling the great ocean called truth. Sir Isaac Newton said, the great mathematician who invented calculus, who is a great astronomer, who contributed so much to science, said, what we know is a drop, and what we do not know is an ocean. He continued, I do not know what I may appear to the world, but up to myself, I seem to have been only a little boy playing on the seashore and diving myself now and then, finding smoother pebble or prettier shell than ordinary, while the great ocean of truth lay undiscovered in front of me. Now coming to my books. There's an old saying said, necessity is the mother of invention. 30 years ago, that happened to me. When my first son, was attending a Catholic school in New Orleans, he started asking me a lot of questions. In school, he was bombarded with Holy Bible and Jesus Christ. And I had nothing against it because they taught them very clearly all the teachings of the immortal teachings of Jesus Christ. But he was taken aback, and he also felt maybe we Hindus are following a pagan belief system with no basis whatsoever. So when he started asking questions, I was looking for a book. I didn't find none in the market. So I wrote and published a book called Daddy, Am I a Hindu? With my own money in India during 1988. When I was writing that book, the whole world was against it. Even my own family felt, as an engineer, I should be working on writing articles about static electricity, harmonics, transformers, switch gears, and power transmission, etc. Instead of devoting so much time to write a book, which many thought nobody will read. Even the publisher in India felt I am wasting my money. But surprisingly, the book took off. The first edition, 3,000 copies were sold within a month. I knew that when I was writing it, I was a little bit timid because that is the time that moral majority was in power. And also, many Hindu temples did not even get permission to build temples because there was so much anti-Hindu feeling in United States at that time. Same thing in Canada. I was interviewed by CBS Atlanta for 2 hours in 1989 when Atlanta Hindu Association had problem building a temple. I got my spirit and courage to write the book after looking at people like Mahatma Gandhi, Jesus Christ, Swami Vivekananda, Martin Luther King, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, etc. Those people gave me inspiration. All these people did not toe the line and did not follow the status quo. They thought outside the box. Gandhiji could have been lived like a barrister in South Africa and had enjoyed a great life. No, he came back to India and fought with British, got to be independent. Jesus Christ easily obeyed the Jewish hierarchy, had a peaceful life, and he could have become a great rabbi. Instead of he fought against the Pharisees and money changers with a full knowledge that he'll be crucified one day for his actions. Swami Vivekananda promoted Hindu ideals in the West without changing anything what we call it Western. He did not change his attack when he addressed the Parliament of World Religions during 1893 at Chicago. Martin Luther King fought back, oppression of slaves, and he said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So now I will start discussing about what Hinduism is all about. I mean, I am going to give you a brief picture in the allotted time of maybe about 45 minutes. And also I will touch Bhagavad Gita, to me, the greatest book on earth. To me, Krishna is the greatest teacher who ever walked upon this earth. So I am going to start the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. Can you see?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can see it.
First, I want to do my pranams to the Pujya Guru, Sadguru Adi Shankaracharya, who united a fragment India with philosophy, poetry, and pilgrimage when India was virtually falling apart because of so many other religions were coming up, Buddhism, Jainism, Islam, and we had problem with Brahmanism, Devadasi system, etc., which was corrupting Hinduism. If there was no Adi Shankaracharya, literally there would not have been any Hinduism what we know today. During a short sojourn on planet Earth, For 32 years, he wrote many books, set up 4 monasteries called Matas, and even wrote a poem of Saundarya Lahari with 100 verses dedicated to Goddess Parvati. Now, I had to address this before I start anything about Hinduism. To me, COVID-19 pandemic is the tip of the iceberg of things that are to come. To me, this is a major warning from nature to human beings. Bhumi Devi is telling us, you are part of nature like the bacteria to mighty elephants. When deers, elephants, gorillas, and tigers you die with them. Don't think you can control Earth and do whatever you want. Mother Earth is a living organism. Nature is warning us. Stop destroying the ecology. Stop polluting air. Stop polluting water. Stop the exploitation of natural resources. Stop breeding more than like a termite. Stop burning coal and other fossil fuels. After this virus disappears, many viruses will follow. We may have a virus even carried by mosquitoes, and then we will be very sorry. This is my first book I published in 1988. And just like I said, I put Daddy Am I Hindu. Then I republished the book because Walden bookstores and many others asked me, they want to carry the book in the United States with the name Am I Hindu. Then 2015, I published Amazing Secret of Bhagavad Gita, which is thought-provoking discussion about every aspect of Bhagavad Gita in 63 chapters, between a grandfather and his 18-year-old American-born grandson. This is a totally different book than other Gita you see. In this book, I am discussing every subject Krishna touched in very minute detail. Krishna has discussed more than 50 subjects, and these subjects are all over 700 verses. For example, Krishna is discussing about ashramas and ashrama dharma. He has discussed about upside down Ashwatha tree. He has discussed about Vedanta. He has discussed about Varna system, reincarnation, Atman, selfless action, Sankhya philosophy. It is amazing how much data is in the Bhagavad Gita. It is not just a devotional book at all. Then I published 1 year ago, Amazing Secret of Hinduism, in which I discussed about so many great scientists we had in India, like Aryabhatta, and also I discussed about the great kings like Ashoka, Harsha, Gupta, and so on and on. And that book, I am telling everybody, what I put in this book is a glimpse of the history of India. Everybody is reading the history books written by foreigners. I am saying to everybody, read the books, history books written by the Hindu authors. Then you will understand how great. I am not talking fanatically. I am really talking to you as a person who is interested in truth. My book, this book came and it was presented to Prime Minister Modi, and he said, I'd like to meet Vishwanathan when he visits New Delhi next to my publisher. Because there is so much demand for books like this. I wish there are more books come like this pattern. More authors will write books like that. Now, let me start with this thing. What is Hinduism? That is a $1 million question. When I was growing up in 50s, Doctors Radhakrishnan, Aurobindo, Tilak, Rabindranath Tagore, everybody insisted it's a culture and a way of life. But lately, about 15 years ago, first David Frawley told me, Vishwanathan, we had to look at it as a religion, not as a culture. Then Hinduism Today editor told me this is a religion, not a culture. I recently found a YouTube video where Swami Chinmayananda said, it's a religion, it's not a culture. Personally, I feel it is a family of religions because we have Vaishnavites, Shaivites, Shaktiites, even Kabbalis. All are in Hinduism. As well as it's a science because it is dealing with astronomy, geology, mathematics, chemistry, physics, to name a few. Hinduism is where science and spirituality intersect. It has no founder like other religions. It has no hierarchy like other religions. It has no governing body like Harajit. We do not convert others to Hinduism since we are maintaining a cultural status. And we are open, we are always open to take fresh ideas from anywhere on the world. In the Rig Veda, when the rishis wrote that noble thoughts come to us from all the sides, they did not say, let noble thoughts come. What is the original name? That is a good question of Hinduism. You can go through the entire set of Hindu scriptures. You will never find the word Hindu or Hinduism because the name was Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma means that is have no beginning. And this was what was the practice by the Indus Valley dwellers. And that's what we see looking at the Mohenjo-daro and Harappa relics. When you look at those relics, you do not see a religion, but you see a culture. It was the Persians who came to India during the 6th century BCE, who gave the name Hinduism, meaning the religion of people living near the Indus River. In Persian, the letter H and S are pronounced almost the same. So they misheard the word Sindhu, that Sanskrit name, and started saying Hindu and Hinduism. Then question is, wait a second, I know so much. How the name got stuck? Excellent question. When British came to India, Warren Hastings was the first British Governor General. When he landed, he found, wait a second, I see Hindus and Buddhists and Jains and Sikhs in one side. I see Muslims on the other side. How will I rule? So he asked his assistants write a code named Anglo-Hindu law, a law he used to govern Hindus, Buddhists, and Jains and Sikhs. The Muslims, he governed by Sharia law, and which came from Quran. This is the reason why the word Hindu and Hinduism stuck. Once again, I see Hinduism and Judaism as the mothers of all religions in the world. All religions originate from riverbank cultures. And two great mother cultures exist today is Hinduism and Judaism. All Eastern religions, including Zoroastrianism, came from Hinduism. Jainism originated during the time of Rig Veda. How do I know that? The Mohenjo-daro Harappa relics of Rishabha, the first Tirthankara of Jains, Jainism existed during the time of Rig Veda, and we benefit immensely from Jainism and Buddhism. It is through Jainism Hindus really understood the importance of vegetarianism. Jainism taught us so much, and I have a great regard for Jainism. Sikhism also is equally important because the great Guru Nanak took things from Hinduism and Islam and combined it and made a religion so that it fits for that time in Punjab, that kind of area. Judaism, the Christianity and Islam came from Judaism. Abraham is the common patriarch for all three religions. If you look Holy Bible, which Christians read, you will see mentioning so many Jewish prophets. If you take Holy Quran, you will see the mention of Jesus many times. Moses is mentioned as Musa, M-U-S-A. Jesus is called Isaac. So these three are connected together. This is the chart I made, and there is no need of discussion about it. And this is why I put this world time chart, because this will tell you to appreciate and admire Hinduism more. Because we had a Harappa Indus civilization. Look at it. We had civilization in India before Indus Valley civilization. The King Tut is only 1341 BCE. The first university in the world, oh my God, Taxila University, started 700 BCE. Sri Mahavir of Jainism, 497 BCE. Ashoka the Great, who ruled India, about which, as Jeeval said, the emperor, the greatest emperor in the world, lived in 304 BCE. Julius Caesar is only 44 BCE. Aryabhatta, 476. Varahamihira, 505. Adi Shankara. And look at it. All these things are very important. The kids should understand and study. What attracts people to Hinduism? That is an excellent question. Everybody asks. You guys don't preach to anybody. And most Hindus, if you say, what is Hinduism? I don't want to talk about it, please. Let's talk something else. Still, people like Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atom bomb, is fall in love. Tesla, the man who invented alternating current, fell in love with Hinduism when he met Swami Vivekananda. Thousands of Albert Einstein, who said everything came from Hinduism. Maxwell, he fell in love with Hinduism. Even there are one great scientist, I can't remember his name, who said, when I have doubts, I go back to Upanishads. Even an atheist has the right to condemn Hinduism in public and still proudly proclaim he or she is a Hindu. This again, we are not converting because we are a culture. When you read Hindus, you are actually studying the history and culture of India. Like the first 33 books of the Holy Bible, you are studying the culture and history of the Jews. That's the reason why we don't actively promote conversion of Hinduism. What are our scriptures? We have hundreds of scriptures. But due to the time, I don't have my time, so I am telling you, all Hindu scriptures started with Shruti. According to Hindu, knowledge always existed in the form of sound in the universe. The knowledge, jnana, started as Shruti, that which is heard. The rishis of ancient times who perfected themselves heard eternal truth And they taught this truth to the disciple by telepathy. And later disciple wrote them in books. So Shruti is that which is heard. Vedas is Upanishads under this. Smriti is that which is remembered. The rest of the scriptures, including Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita. The beautiful part of Hinduism is Charvaka atheistic philosophy. When the rest of the world burn and kill people for disagreeing what a church or mosque taught, in Hinduism, we allowed and supported an atheistic philosophy. Charvaka openly said all things are made of earth, air, fire, and water. He said, heaven and hell are nothing but inventions of people. The only goal human is to enjoy pleasure and avoid pain. Vedas are written by buffoons. He openly said. You may ask me, how did Charvaka die? He died in bed of old age. Whereas William Tyndale, the first person who translated Holy Bible to English, was mercilessly persecuted and burned at stake because the church didn't like what he wrote. Who are the rishis? The best part is rishis were not preachers. Rishis were the scientists of the ancient past whose only goal was to find out the truth. They discussed and debated like scientists about every aspect of life. They even discussed about human sexuality. Where else you can read a book like Kama Sutra? None of the religions have the capacity to have a book like Kama Sutra. If the Kama Sutra was any other religion, it would have been burned. Anybody who read will be killed. They explored the universe. They even allowed atheistic philosophies to prevail in India. People who put down Vedas of Hindu God. Women. This is we have a Me Too movement now, so we have to discuss this in detail. Women were treated with a lot of respect in ancient India. Women were allowed to have Swayamvara, means they can pick their husbands. Sati, Panchali, Damayanti, even Mantotri, all picked their husband through Swayamvara. The one person who really got into trouble is Sati. Sati was told by King Dasha, who had 60 daughters, whatever you do not marry Lord Shiva. In Swayamvara, all the great seers and devatas all assembled. 27 daughters of King Dasha married Moon, and Devendra was here, and all the Prajapatis were there, Vasishta was there, everybody was there. Sati was introduced to everybody. Sati got so angry and threw the garland outside. It went on fell on a Shivalinga, and Shiva got married. And Dasha said to Sati, if you get out of this palace right now, you're never coming back. That's a long story, you know that. So that is the way. Women seers in Vedas are called Rishikas. Some of the great women thinkers and writers during which are Gargi, Maitreyi, Ghosha, and Abhamudra. Gargi composed several hymns that questioned the origin of existence, had a debate with Rishi Yajnavalkya in the palace of King Janaka, the father of Sita Devi. She also said to have written many hymns in the Rig Veda. The women never give up. They challenge. Even when Adi Shankara want to climb the Sarvatni Pidam, suddenly Saraswati appeared and said, "Not that fast," she said. "Why not? You didn't answer me questions from Grahastha Dharma." Then Adi Shankara said, "Wait a minute." And he went to Kashmir, occupied the dead body of Brahmin. And he lived like a householder for 6 months, came back and answered all the questions. So women never give up their rights to question anybody that time. Now, this is the funniest part of it. Every doctor lately is recommending deep breathing exercise and pranayama, even though they never mention the word pranayama. Since the disease attacked the lung respiratory tract, Harvard Medical School recommends yoga, meditation, breathing to deal with this disease. In the article published March 16, Harvard Med said its latest health guidance that yoga, meditation, controlled breathing are the true ways to relax. Rishis taught us, if you breathe like a monkey, you will die like a monkey in a few years. If you breathe like a tortoise, you will live a long time like a tortoise. A monkey lives for 20 to 30 years and breathe 30 to 50 breaths a minute. A tortoise lives up to 400 years. The real reason for longevity is the breath only 3 to 4 breaths per minute times of breath. Lord Krishna said, Arjuna, become a yogi. Lord Krishna said, a yogi is superior than an ascetic, greater than a jnani, and superior than a person who is ritualistic. Therefore, Arjuna, in all circumstances, try to become a yogi. You people should concentrate on the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, because Krishna dealt in detail about the mind and thoughts. Okay. Like in the lives of everybody, things come and go in a yogi's life. But yogi does not exhibit an emotion when things are great or when things are bad. Many have no idea that they do not have to be a Hindu to become a yogi. What is namaste? Everybody says namaste. But if only you believe the soul within you is immortal and is a mirror image of God, or as Shankara said, there is no difference between God and the Atman, the soul, then when you say namaste, it makes a meaning. Because by this we are saying, you and I are one. I salute and worship the God within you, which is a mirror image of myself. If somebody doesn't believe the soul is immortal, saying namaste is a joke. What is Atman? It's immortal system about the Atman. I believe if the electricity within the computer can be Atman, then the electricity within the network can be called God. When a person dies, the Atman or immortal soul is guided to a new body according to the karmic debt inherited in the last body. In Viveka Chudamani Adi Shankara wrote, Brahman or God alone is truth. The world is unreal. And ultimately, there is no difference between Brahman and individual self. Adi Shankara said, there is nothing but God. What is salvation according to Hinduism? There is a very good question. Salvation means realizing one is immortal soul or Atman within the body and giving up the false belief that one is the perishable body. That is the reason why Hindu salvation is known as self-realization. That means realizing that one is indeed self or Atman or immortal soul. Hindu salvation is also known as moksha or mukti. meaning the liberation or release from the repeated cycle of cycles of birth and death known as samsara. How can we have salvation? This particular answer I am giving you applicable to everybody on planet Earth. There are 4 paths. This is very well researched by rishis, and they came to understand there are only 4 specific paths to attain salvation, because only through that we can eradicate ego, and finally we will do that. The 4 paths, they are Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raj Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. They are the 4 paths, and most of the people go for Bhakti Yoga. Comparing Hindu concept of salvation, the concept of salvation, other is comparing apples and oranges. The reason is Hindu salvation concepts are based on the immortality of the soul. Religions in the West do not believe soul is immortal. As per a Hindu, you don't even have to be a Hindu to have salvation. The best among us and the worst among us will achieve salvation. The best will achieve in one life, the worst will achieve through many lives. Only difference is the time factor. This is what Krishna said. Sin means ignorance in Hinduism. Sin is the false belief that one is spiritual body. Jnana eradicates ignorance. Lord Krishna said, even if you are the worst sinner in the world, you can still cross the ocean of sin by a bark of wisdom. He said, Arjuna, as the blazing fire burned wood to ashes, Arjuna, so does the fire of true knowledge, which will burn all the karmic debt to ashes. Heaven and hell are not permanent in Hinduism. Nobody lives forever in Hinduism. Arjuna specifically asked, oh Krishna, what happened to someone who goes astray from spiritual pursuit, failed to have salvation and dies? Krishna said, that man will not perish, Arjuna. He will not meet any destruction in this world or not the next. One who is kept into spiritual pursuit, he will never overcome misfortune. There is no snake and ladder game. And that's what they said. He will be reborn into a family of pure, pious people after many years in heaven and continue his spiritual course where he left off in his last life. No religion has said what Krishna said to us. Krishna is saying, don't worry. All of us are having a trial and error process. We all make mistakes. A child put his hand in fire. Nobody will say child sinned, would you? No. The child did not know the power of the fire. The child got burned. Now the child learned, don't put your hand in fire. So do not judge or do not say, I am a sinner, I lost everything. No, you didn't lose anything. Even if you beat up somebody, you didn't lose anything. You may go to jail, that's a different story. But where you are, you can pick up and go. So never, a Hindu will never say, I am a sinner, I am lost, a God saying, nothing like that. That is the beauty of our culture, our religion. We never put down. If once one American went to Ramana Maharshi and said, Maharshi, I did a lot of bad things. But I made several affairs. I cheated people. I did this. I did that. I took money. I robbed things. After half an hour, he said that Ramana Maharshi is saying the word. And he was looking and said, why are you not saying anything, Maharshi? Oh, Maharshi said, oh my God, I really had to be your disciple. Why? You know who I is. What do you mean? I don't know what I is. I am looking for the word meaning, who am I? I am asking every day. All my meditation is based on who am I? And you telling me, I know I did this, I need this, I want to present. What are you talking about? Oh, that's what Ramana Maharshi said. You have to search for the truth. It doesn't matter whether it's Hindu books or any other books or scientific magazine. Until you find you whom you are never satisfied. In Ashtavakra Gita, Rishi Ashtavakra tells King Janaka. Rishi Ashtavakra is the person with 8 waves and he lives forever and ever. And King Janaka is equally a great philosopher who is the guru of Shuka Maharshi. He said, great one, great king, I'm telling you, don't look at the stars for answers. All answers are within you. Go deep within you, and there you find the answer. Aurobindo said to us, listen to your inner voice. One of the scriptures, I forgot the name. A disciple was constantly asking Guru, why not this, why not that? I don't understand. You're telling me this, you're telling me that. Finally, Guru said, nobody knows what is right. Nobody knows what is dharma. Nobody knows what is adharma. There is a deity residing within you. Find it out and obey its commands. So everybody is telling, go deep within you. Saint Buddhists are saying, Jains are saying, unless you go within yourself, you will never find the answer. Believe me, all these books I'm talking about is not that important. Madhava Ambadanjani Mai never read any book like this, what you and I read. But she go deep into it and he has so many answers. Now, from time memorial, Hindu rishis have done a lot of research. From time memorial, Hindu rishis know that breathing, thoughts, and mind are very closely connected. Rishis knew that breath is a powerful tool to calm the mind. They also knew, just like Lord Buddha, whatever we think, we become. Oh, by the way, one of the best books you can read, apart from all this book, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I highly recommend that book. The reason is, it is dealing with so many things taught in our Hindu Raj Yoga and other scriptural books in Hinduism. So please read that book. It is available in all libraries and everybody should read the book. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Rishis found out whenever we get angry, whenever we become emotional, whenever we become sad, we have to watch a breath pattern. It became erratic, short, and rapid. When we are happy and have sublime thought, the breath is slow and relaxed. Mental activity also slows down. So they developed Raj Yoga breathing methods called pranayama, allowing the body and mind to relax at the same time for the mind to be focused on one point. What is the best way to manage stress and anxiety? This is one I practice every now and then. It really helps me. That is Hamsa, which is known as baby pranayama. What is Hamsa? Watching exhalation and inhalation without even controlling the nostril movement or body movement or anything. You can do it anywhere you want as long as you're not driving. And when you do that, the ha is the sound of breath, of exhalation, sa is the sound of inhalations. You can do this exercise anywhere at any time. Do not practice this when driving. The first result with this, you will fall asleep. Next result is that you will have free periods of time, thoughtless thing. I always do this whenever I undertake any job in my office or when I was writing the book. When I do it 5-10 minutes, suddenly all the thoughts come to a proper level. Then I have an intuition to know what to say. Well, especially you should practice this. If you're in an office, practice this before you go for a meeting, especially a confrontational meeting with somebody. Practice this. When you practice this, the advantage of it is not only you will calm down, the person who come and see you will be indirectly calmed down. You will be able to deal with it. It was told that Vivekananda practiced, even stopped a bull who was charging at him once. Amazing. You may ask me, am I very, very fanatic? No, I have least fanaticism because look at me, the books behind. I read Bhagavad Gita, I read Holy Bible, I read Quran, I read St. Louis, all those books. And I even booked hieroglyphics, everything. But one thing I found is we give so much importance to brain. According to the Egyptian book, the dead, a dead pharaoh's brain was scooped out through the nostrils and fed to birds in preparation for mummification. Whereas in our scriptures like Vedanta Sutra is written, all happiness and unhappiness are within the brain. They never said happiness is in the heart. They always said happiness is and unhappiness in the brain. That is the reason why they developed this chakra system and 7 chakras and sushupti and nadis and all those things they developed because of that. This is the beauty part of it. When rest of the religions talk about thousands of years, Hinduism alone talks about trillions of years. Krishna said, through my Maya, in the beginning of time, I create everything. And end of time, the Kalpa, 4.32 billion years, the whole creation merged in me. By my will, the whole universe is created and annihilated again and again. Okay, let us look at it. We are in Kali Yuga that lasts 432,000 years. According to Aryabhatta and so many others, we started Kali Yuga about 3000 BCE. So we have 427,000 years to go. Dwapara Yuga is 864,000, that 2 times. Treta Yuga is 3 times, and Krita Yuga. One Mahayuga is 4 yugas combined, with 432,000 years. Then one Kalpa is 1,000 Mahayugas, 4,320,000,000 years. Then one day of Brahma is 1 Kalpa, and one night of Brahma is 1 Kalpa. One whole day of Brahma is 2 Kalpa. And the funniest part of it, Lord Brahma only lives for 311.04 trillion human years. After that, another Brahma came. In Bhagavatam, there is a story which says, one Brahma felt he lives forever. Lord Vishnu said, let's go for a walk. There he met Saint Ramesha. Lord Vishnu said, Ramesha, how long you live? He said, I don't live much. Oh, please. He said, when one Brahma dies, I lose 1 hair. When I lose all my hair, I die. Then they went further. They met the Rishi Ashtavakra with 8 cows. Asked, how many years you live? Ashtavakra said, God of gods, I don't live much. And said, when one Ramesha dies, I straighten out one of my cow. When I 8 cows straighten out, I die. Have you ever thought how long Ashtavakra lives? That is the beauty of our culture. Amazing calculations. I am only touching this part. I didn't touch mathematics and astronomy and everything. That it will take another 5 hours to discuss this. Hindus only worship one God, Brahman. I will briefly say it now. We have in Rigveda, we have worshipping 33 deities. Those are all major natural deities. Most of them came from nature, like the moon, the sun, the rains, everything came. Then the rishis came with first Purusha. Purusha has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, 1,000 head, everything. And the Varna system came from Purusha, which you call caste system. There is no word caste in Hinduism. Then the Purusha was given into the fire, cut into pieces and so then the Purusha left. After that, the rishis came with Brahman. And when they came with Brahman, they find very difficult to define Brahman. It is just like when Moses met Jehovah on the mountaintop, the burning bush, which is Jehovah said, Moses said, "Who are you?" And Jehovah just said, "I am what I am." He didn't say, "I am this, I am that," or anything. So Brahman, when they came out with the Brahman, they found very difficult to explain. Then they said, we will break into two. Saguna Brahman, Nirguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman is God with attributes. That is the Vishwarupam like thing. Nirguna Brahman is God without attributes, like Neti Nedi, not this, not this. God is not the sun, God is not the moon, God is not this thing, God that. Upanishads, you will see Nirguna Brahman is discussed very at length. Then they came with Om. Om is the vibratory aspect of God. From the Om, all the creation happens. Everything is constantly vibrating, in the world. And from Om came everything. Then came the Hindu Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. If the question is, if there is only one God, Brahman, why do Hindus worship many gods? That's an excellent question. During the time of the Upanishads, when the Hindu rishis said there is only one God, Brahman, they found the layman could not understand that concept. So they wrote Itihasas and Puranas filled with many gods, with the idea when you worship any god with any form or name, Namarupa, you're actually worshipping one and only God. Hindus do not worship idols. That is a joke. We always use idols like everybody else to worship the God who is nameless and formless. So if God is not a man, God is not a woman, God is anything we know. But I had to finish with this because I didn't have a chance to talk about Bhagavad Gita. But with this, I think the difference between Varna system you should know. Varna system based on character, caste system based on birth. Changing opinion, you can change Varna. One caste is not possible in caste system. No restraint, flexibility. And I have to tell you what Varna system started in Rigvedic time. There is no word caste in Hindu scripture. English caste derived Spanish and Portuguese word casta. This is the way set up. The whole Varna system started from Lord Brahma. Manu set up the rules and conducts the caste, and Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and the first three were called Dvija. Then the untouchable came, there's a Gotra Kula. This is the Gotra Kula. And Lord Krishna said, according to people's born, aptitude, and professional interest, I create the 4 divisions. And he also said, a learned man and led person sees with equal to learned Brahmin outcast, cow, and elephant and dog. Adi Shankara, even though a Brahmin condemned caste and meaningless rituals as foolish, he said every human being take birth as a Shudra. Only by education upbringing, he becomes a twice born. In the Mahabharata, between Yasha and Dharmaputra, and man does not become a Brahmin by a mere fact of birth. not even by the Krishna Vedas. It's good character alone that makes one a Brahmin. He will worse than Shudra if he's correct. Another thing I want to tell you is, before I go, in the Bible and all, there is slavery. Saint Paul asked one slave to go back to his master. The reason why there was slavery in the United States, because many times the slavery was misunderstood. Okay, hold on. If anybody have questions, please write to me. I am posting every day in LinkedIn about different things about Hinduism, and please join me on LinkedIn. There's an old saying, all that is necessary for evils to prevail is good people to do nothing. It is our duty to educate the masses about our culture. Every one of us are ambassadors of our culture. It is, forget about my books, read any book, I don't care. You can even, I will suggest another great book is Autobiography Yogi by Paramahamsa Yogananda. Read that. And the idea is to educate yourself so that you can answer questions. There is no religion or culture in the world with so many great scientists. We call it rishis, and who gave us so much. So it is our duty to educate ourselves. Oh, there one more thing. I'm sorry. Oh, I had to finish with this. This is very important to everybody. When is the best time to pray and meditate? It is written we get the maximum benefits when do things during Brahma Muhurta, between 3:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. There are varied opinions about Brahma Muhurta. I wrote all my books during Brahma Muhurta. I do a deep breathing exercise and then I do write. I found out it is so refreshing. It is written in our scriptures. That is the time. There is very little thought activity in the ether.
Mr. Vishwanathan, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but it is time for us to head to the temple. Just before we go, I'll send any information that we weren't able to cover. I just want to thank you for such an amazing presentation. We're so lucky to have gotten such an insightful look into our culture and religion from your presentation. If anybody has any questions for him, please do send it, and then I can send it to Mr. Vishwanathan for him to respond to at a later time. So it is just past 7 o'clock. Let's head to the temple for the Deeparadhana.